Welcome to the DGD podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds. Well, let's just go ahead and start between the hedges Saturday. But first, let's do this. Going live, folks. Sokovie White, 2024, in the class of 2024. Sokovie White, receiver, commits to Georgia as we're going live. So that is some breaking news right there. And we're going to bring on, oh my word. Is that who I think that is?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on?
Not much. Look, I'm just letting you know right now. I got to wear black, right? We're at a funeral for Auburn's season, and probably Brian Harsin is head coach. Just letting you know that. So pay respects. Psych. In all seriousness, though, listen, Georgia takes care of business, gets back on track a little bit, if you will, 42-10. Juan, I don't know, you just popped on, but as we alluded to begin the show, Sokovie White, receiver out of the 2024 cycle, commits to Georgia as we went live. I don't know if you know much about him, but I'm telling you right now, I think the kid will be a welcome addition to the 24 cycle, especially at a position of need like receiver. But let's talk about Auburn, right? We got back onto our roots. We went back to our roots, Juan. Ran the damn ball, if you will. Listen, 292 yards, that's obviously sacks included, if you know what I mean. I want to say we ran for over 300 if you exclude those. First off, what are your initial thoughts on the game?
First and foremost, and I put this in the chat last Wednesday. I just said statement game. This is a statement. That was a statement game, and coming off the heels of a struggling, game against Missouri. Well, and that was a close game. Auburn ends up beating them. But what Georgia basically said is go out there. We're going to make a statement because number one, Auburn played in. And number two, Auburn is also going to play Alabama. So we want to make sure that we just take this common opponent and smash them and beat them 10 times what we're able to do. So 6 rushing touchdowns, just outstanding.
I'm looking at it this way. I'm looking at, right, like Branson Robinson, welcome to the party. My man, welcome to the party. You look at Kendall Milton, I think, gets a groin injury. To the severity of it, I'm not sure. But you're going in, you're looking at it, right? Now you give a chance for Branson Robinson to get more touches, right? Obviously, Dejan, right? Dejan has seemingly earned more and more reps as the weeks progress. But we really saw Branson Robinson. And listen, I'm not trying to say that this is like what I'm taking my take here, but on that last run of his, there was a moment where I was like, okay, that reminds me a little bit of Nick Chubb, right? I don't want to compare him to Nick Chubb. I think he's a little bit different, right? That's okay. But you saw the Nick Chubb-esque style, right? That power run. Listen, if you watched it, the dude just slipped off of him, right? They tried to grab him his hips, and he just slides off of him. To me, so it's not like, it's just one of those things where he's power runner. But let's be honest, he's explosive. And speaking of explosive, one, Stequavius Bennett outrunning SEC defensive backs, if you want to call them that at Auburn. That was impressive.
Yeah, and you could just tell how smart he is. He took advantage of it. The middle of the field wide open. He was like, oh, well, you know what? Why not? So he took off and, he did a great job.
And I mean, you look at that play, though, when you break it down, you would almost be crazy not to take it because if you look at the safeties and the DBs, 2 high safeties all split away. You look at the cornerbacks; they're all focused head away from the middle of the field. So it literally is the white, the parting of the Red Sea. Just you know what I mean? You have to take advantage of that. He did, and he made him pay, which is another reason why moving forward, people have to respect that as a runner, which should hopefully slow down blitzes, things like that, buy him some more time to get right in the passing game. Um, not everything was sunshine and rainbows, right? There was a couple things that I think, um, in my opinion, we need to work on, and that's connecting on the deep passes, right? I want to say we took more shots than normal for this year. Didn't connect on any of them. From a former receiver, what did you see in that situation? Like when we took deep shots, not connecting. What are your thoughts on that, and how does Georgia fix that moving forward? Because you're going to need those.
Yeah, it's definitely a timing issue. On one of those, it almost kind of looked McConkey kind of slowed up trying to find the ball, and it was just kind of just a little bit over. I think it's one thing too. McConkey's just going to have that confidence back. The thing again with the crazy rotation with all these receivers is you're going to have one guy you're going to have the next guy that's going to run a 4-3. You're going to have a guy that's going to run. So that with your receivers from a quarterback standpoint, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be to try to adjust based off of the rush and everything is going so fast. So I just think that if we could just I think that would help.
Yeah, I'm looking at it this way, right? Like it's not, it's becoming a trend at this point, and to me, I genuinely need to see these things hit, right? You overthrow Bowers, you overthrow Ladd, and in my point, like you have to start connecting with this because when you go to a team, when you play Tennessee, right, you need those deep shots because they're Tennessee's secondary is not good. They're just not. So you have to take advantage of that, right? And how do you do that? You stretch the top, stretch the field vertically, and from there, right, connect on the deep passes, and put in. You're going to have to score points. So moving forward, Georgia has to find a way to connect on those. When you look at last year, though, there was a situation where we were underthrown, right? We underthrew a lot of these. However, at the same time, if you want to compare it, you connect it, right? So it's just something, to look at there. But I want to talk to the brigade here since we've got a hot and heavy brigade so far. Apparently, the Flower Dipped Beard Club is in the house. Santa's left the building. Also, 6033 says, me and Juan are not grumpy old men. Not grumpy old men. So we'll see how that goes. But apparently, Juan went to go get a Santa hat as well. So this is interesting. Interesting development, if you will. But Juan, if you can still hear me, I want to move on to how can I explain this? The defensive performance. We didn't get no sacks, not even statistically, if you will, quarterback hurries. With that being said, how do you listen? I think we all saw if you watched the game, Robbie Ashford was running for his life the entire game. What do you make of that defensive performance?
Well, can you hear me? Am I coming through a little bit clearer?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, good. Um, he was running for his life the entire game. I mean, you don't necessarily have to get defensive sacks if you are getting defensive pressures. And the secondary did a great job of covering, but that pressure, I mean, he just looked uncomfortable the entire game. And for somebody like that playing in that environment, coming to play against Georgia, him running for his life, he did not make a good, comfortable throw the entire game. So I was pleased at what they were able to do. He's a mobile guy. Historically, we've had trouble with mobile guys, and they did a great job of containing him and then also forcing him to throw some bad passes.
No, you're 100% right. I think this is again this game right here was a perfect example why you don't worry about sack stats. You don't worry about all that stuff, right? Because when you watch the game, they're unable to do anything. They really are. You can't do anything, right? They couldn't move the ball hardly at all. I was also surprised they didn't really give the ball to Tank as much as I thought they would. Um, it's overall, I think you made his life a living hell for 4 quarters. Did what you had to do. Defense keeps doing what they're doing, and I think ultimately you see what happens with a 42 to you know, we were 14. We were up 14-0 at half. Which leads me to believe, obviously if you watched it, it's another slow start for the offense. Juan, with this being kind of a slow start, we didn't score our first points until the second quarter. Is this something that Georgia has to worry about moving forward? Is this a problem now?
No, it's not. It would be a problem if we were going score for score, and or putting our defense in a very bad situation, from a field position standpoint. But no, I mean Georgia just did what they do. They're methodical, and again, they're built on running the football. So 6 rushing touchdowns is great. They just played good Georgia football. What are we going to do? We're just going to play great defense, and we're going to run the football. No matter however it happens, we still put 42 points on the board, and we only gave up 10.
You brought up the 6 rushing touchdowns, right? And we've talked about kind of going back to our roots, if you will, right? I think my favorite takeaway from this, from a total standpoint, is defense did what they're supposed to do, but the offense, we found another way to dominate a game, right? We've been looking for this type of performance from the running game all season. We've been waiting for it. Now you get it. So now you can sit there. You can run the ball. Maybe I don't know what it was. Yeah, I mean Patrick alludes to it here. 292 yards on the ground, right? So you sit there, you look at it that way. What caused, right? And that's something that we got to figure this out. What caused us to struggle in the run game, right? It seemed like every one of our running backs were hitting the holes, and I mean wide open holes for that matter too, right? Branson with cutbacks, right? Dejon with cutbacks. There were some beautiful runs there. But at the same time, I think you look at the offensive line. They came to play, and boy, did they ever do that. See, whenever you have 292 yards, guys, you have to give credit to the offensive line. You know what I mean? I think that was the most important thing there, is just seeing these guys just effort and just physically manhandling. Something that what is it? Auburn Center Council. I forgot his first name. I don't know if you heard that one heading into this game. Talking about Auburn could dominate us, our defensive line.
Yeah, I did hear that.
If we keep them out of our third down, or out of their third down packages, we could dominate them. And I'm like, okay. And then next thing you know, first drive, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15. Like it's just stuff like you love to see it. Right? You just love to see it. Apparently what impressed Patrick was about Dejon when he refused to go down the pile push for 10 more yards on several times. That's a testament to the offensive line again too. Like he's 30 yards down the field, and they're following the ball and come in there and push the pile. That's effort. That's the effort that we're talking about. That's what we needed to see moving forward. You sustain your blocks, and then you engage, right? Go down the field, track the ball, run after it. Shit like that happens. And when it does, it makes you look that much more dominant, right? It's just beautiful. Juan, if you had to choose a player of the game, I know we made our prediction. Who are you giving the game ball to for this week?
Obviously it's probably I'm going to go with the offensive line. Just the entire offensive line. I mean, you had a stable of backs that were going through, they were running, but just like, Patrick said, what was impressive is, them going down there pushing the pile. And there was one where they were going and they were in the red zone, and it looked like he was stopped probably at the 10-yard line, and they just go and they just push him, more up the field. And then of course the next play, they score a touchdown. So, you know what? They just went and played some big boy football against a big time rival. Everybody's going to give us their best shot. Everybody's going to give us their best shot. Everybody wants to knock the big dog off. Just like Texas A&M, as bad as they were, they took Alabama to the wire. So everyone wants an opportunity to do that. They're going to get up, and the offensive line said, no, just put it on our shoulders, and we're going to put our big boy pants on, and we're just going to run right through this defensive line. So they did a great job.
You sit there, you look at it, right? And, you look at the whole performance. I enjoyed our performance totally. Patrick says his players of the game, the offensive line and Dejan. But you know what? I want to give it to her. I want to give it to the freshman. Give it to Branson Robinson, right? Listen, Dejan did an excellent job. You cannot discredit that. All of our running backs did well. Stetson did well. Give it to Branson. I think it's worth it, right? SEC Freshman of the Week as well. He earned that. He did. He ran like a man possessed. And if that's what we're getting, oh boy, buckle up that chin strap because he's coming at you. Now I don't know if you're familiar with this name too, but I'm looking at this running back room, right? And obviously I'm not trying to get too far ahead, Juan, but there's a name that people may have forgotten about. I'm not saying everybody here has, but if you've forgotten about the name Andrew Paul, please remind yourself that with him being out with the ACL injury this year, just wait for next year. That's all I'm going to say. Listen, if you like what you saw out of Branson Robinson, Andrew Paul is probably better than Branson, and that's saying something. Because up until that point, if I'm not mistaken, Andrew was above Branson in the running back room. Dude was making plays after play after play. Obviously the injury happens, but that's not. I'm not knocking Branson Robinson, but just keep in mind, folks, that the running back room is still in good hands with Del McGee. Let's do this. Like I said, my player of the game, I'm giving it to Branson Robinson. There are some things, Juan, as we kind of transition to a different side of this. There's some things going around college football in the SEC that happened Saturday and even today that could have an impact on Georgia. Right, hear me out on this. Matt Rule, the former head coach for the Carolina Panthers, is fired. Is there a chance that he goes to the SEC? Maybe if Auburn fires Harsin, like I think they will. Or do you think he goes to somewhere like maybe a Nebraska or something like that, right? Because I don't know about you, but Matt Rule at Baylor had that program looking really nice. We played him in the bowl game. Goes to Carolina, and you know how this goes, Juan. Head coaching in the NFL is a lot different than college. I feel like he's better for the college game. Simple as that. Simple as that. I don't think they've made an announcement yet to say that Harsin's been fired from Auburn, but let's be honest, the writing's on the wall. That's coming down the track sooner or later. It has to. Why they're prolonging it, I really don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, it's going to be sooner or later because they still have to play Ole Miss, which that's going to be a loss. They still have to play Alabama. That's going to be a loss. I do believe they still have to play Mississippi State. That's going to be a loss. It's going to be. It's either now or never. So it's just days away, I think.
It makes sense to me, right? It makes sense. But I think Auburn. This could be the final nail in the coffin, even though it's not just yet. If there's a chance they go 4 wins total, like it's rough for them. But the thing about it is, you look at what they're having to pay, right? I'm not feeling sorry for them because they did it to themselves.
Yep.
You're paying off Gus. You're about to be paying off Harsin. You still got to find a new head coach when that time comes. That's your own fault. So, in my opinion,
I think they're still paying off Tuberville and Chiswick. So, it's,
Ooh, the boosters pissed off big time, having to pay money for guys that have been long gone.
Yeah.
But, my thing is this, like, with that being said, if they're still doing those kind of buyouts, there's no way they'd get that. They're like, Auburn is on a track to be a poverty program for a while if things happen the way they're supposed to.
Yep.
Like, it's to the point where you really have to start wondering about the Deep South Souls rivalry. Like, is it going to be worth watching? Is it like a Georgia Tech again? Who knows? Speaking of Georgia Tech, though, Georgia Tech, since they let go of, Jeff Collins and the Waffle House man, since they let go of Mr. Waffle House, they're playing some decent ball. I know they played Pitt at the time. Pitt was ranked, beat
Yep,
them,
beat
and then
Pitt.
beat Duke this weekend.
Yeah.
The question now is, Juan, is Georgia Tech something to be worried about now?
I would probably worry about them as much as I would worry about, is it possible to staple water to a tree? I mean, it's not it's not possible. So it's not even anything to even come close to worrying about.
That'll make you sweat a little bit trying that, right? Why won't it work? Yeah.
Yeah.
Pat says Deep South Southern Strawberry is always worth watching because fuck Auburn. Absolutely. I ain't mad about that. Not one bit. It's worth it. Yeah, but at the same time, you look at some teams, right? One that we've got to go up against later in the season, and I want to get your thoughts from a high level perspective on these. All right, you look at Kentucky taking an L to South Carolina, right? We've already played South Carolina, but you look at South or Kentucky without Will Levis, right? That is a terrible program without Will Levis.
They are pretty bad, yeah. And
Oh,
that was evident.
Juan, Black Adonis in the house.
I should probably get it. I should probably get it removed. I think you could kind of see it here a little bit, but it's the
Some,
old Aubie tattoo.
oh. Now there's a backstory to this, more sentimental note. So we'll keep that off record for the time being. But sources confirm, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Hey, we're
but
gonna
listen,
just so you know, we got to pick out a show. We'll um try to get with Black Adonis's schedule, but I'd love to have him on the show, man. He's awesome. So I would
you know,
and I talked to him. He
we'll
said he'd be okay with it.
we'll book that. Let's get that. Let's get that booked. Let's work
All
on that.
right.
Listen, I think Tanil says it would be a major feat for the Barners to sink to Georgia Tech slavery. Laughing at, yeah, it can happen though. It could. But I do want to take over here once. So obviously Kentucky, right? We're playing Kentucky toward the end of the season. That team is like Jekyll and Hyde. It's without Will Levis, right? Uh, you lose what I think it was 24-14 at home without Will Levis. They couldn't move the ball, and that was interesting, right? You give credit to South Carolina for taking care of business, but if I'm looking at Kentucky, I'm not worried about Kentucky at this point. Are you? Like, should we be worried about them? I'm not.
Nope.
I mean, am I?
No,
There you go.
not at all. They
I'll
if
tell
they
you
don't
one.
have their leader, I'm not even worried about it.
I'll tell you one team that I am kind of sweating just a little bit out. And I'm not talking Tennessee just yet, but Mississippi State. Mississippi State can still run. They can
You
run
said
the
that
ball
earlier.
now
You
too.
said that earlier. Yeah, you
Yeah.
said that earlier when we were doing our previews. You said that.
I mean, I thought it was, we kind of knew what Will Rogers was about and everything, but the fact that they have a pulse in a run game, that's interesting. Listen, they threw up what they played Arkansas and just dismantled Arkansas this week, but they scored 40 points the past two games at least, and
Yeah.
with running the ball. They dismantled A&M and then dismantled Arkansas. That's two teams that a lot of people had at the top of the SEC West, and Jay just waxed them. Been trying to tell people since the offseason, man, since before the season started. Keep an eye out for Mississippi State.
Yep.
But let's talk about Tennessee, though. Let's talk about Tennessee. Are you worried about Tennessee?
No. No, I'm not. If you look at Tennessee's schedule, and some of the teams that they beat, there were some close games. I mean, they score a lot of points, but I mean, they just didn't really blow anybody out, or is it? I mean, except for obviously this last game, it was a big time blowout. But again, it's one of those things that with Georgia's defense, it's all fun and games till you get punched in the mouth. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, and I think that's what's going to happen. When we match up against Tennessee. Plus, we'll get an opportunity to see what Tennessee's really about this weekend against Alabama, with or without Bryce Young.
I'm getting reminded in the chat right now, Juan, about my prediction from before the season. I'm just going to pull this up here because I earned this. Speaking of teams people were high on in the SEC West, Yeah, Juan's laughing at me right now, and he has. Or, yeah, Juan's laughing. Kobe pointed that shit out at LSU. Now, good lord, man, I had him going second in the West, and they are just, that family down there is just disappointing to say the least. It is. Tennessee just boat raced him at home, and I don't know. Year one, I really don't know. You look at Ole Miss is probably the number. I think Ole Miss is second right now as it stands now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there could very well be a chance you see the Egg Bowl determines second place, or maybe even first, depending on how
maybe even first.
Alabama
Yeah,
fares. Yeah, Jay Jacobs, um, Ole Miss wins the West. It could happen.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't put it past. I think that, like you said, I think that Ole Miss Mississippi State game may determine who wins the West. And right now, the way that Ole Miss is playing football right now, they're playing some good football. Lane Kiffin has got that group, ready to play. It's a different atmosphere.
I mean, just going around to around the SEC, if you will. There's a lot of crazy shit that happened this week, right? Bama survives A&M, and an underwhelming A&M team for that matter. Um, yeah, Kobe says not even a fake country accent can save him from that ass whipping. Yeah, it's just terrible. I don't know. I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. Yeah, but I kind of want to go back to Georgia now. Obviously, this is a Georgia podcast, but you take away, right? Like, obviously, we had a huge running game. We look at some guys that, I would really want to see, play, right? You look at Bear Alexander. I don't know if you paid attention to this, but Bear Alexander has really stepped up over the past couple games with Jalen Carter when he got hurt, when he went down at Missouri. It seems like Bear, obviously our D line, like I said, we didn't get a lot of like sacks or anything, so repeating that again. But at the same time, Bear Alexander's really impressed me. Uh, you know, I guess you could say just creating pressure from within. What are your thoughts on the defensive line play without Jalen Carter? Because once we get Jalen Carter back, I expect business to pick up even more. But in the meantime, what are your thoughts on the play without Jalen Carter?
Well, I mean, it's next man up first and foremost, and I just think that they did a great job against Auburn. Again, Auburn is the team that they took, Mizzou, who we just struggled with the week before. They took them to overtime, scored some points on them. Even though they went up there and got absolutely stomped against Penn State, they still went up there in Happy Valley and they were able to move the ball. You got a very athletic quarterback. You got an unbelievable running back in Tanks Bigsby. So for them to take on that challenge, they did an excellent job. So it's next man up till Jalen Carter gets back, and then once you add him back to the mix, it's going to be, everybody's fighting to get their opportunity. And if you have a team that's hungry, a group that's hungry to get in there so that they can get their opportunity, that's a dangerous group.
Yeah, you look at obviously you're not seeing the disruption that you saw last season. You shouldn't expect that if you're a Georgia fan. You should not. Um, but when you look at guys like Nolan Smith, right, really um, coming in and being that leader along the edge, right, with Robert Bill as well. You know, I can't wait to see guys like Mike Hill. I'm gonna shout him out with Mike Hill when he starts to really, right, like get comfortable. It's going to be a problem. It
Mm-hmm.
will. Um, and I just think that moving forward, you know, learn under him, right? Like learn under Nolan, right? Nolan, if you've watched it, he's just so damn smart, man. When it comes to the defense and just understanding the game, there's things that he does that like I feel like it shouldn't happen, right? But he does it because he's just so instinctual, and you know, it's beautiful to see. I'm not going to go too far ahead. That's for the off season, right? But you hope that he's mentoring these guys to learn underneath of him, and I think you will. He's that kind of guy that you're going to do that. But you really want to see these young guys really like make the impact. Like Mike Hill was getting pressures, Bear Alexander getting pressures. You saw a lot of that, right?
Yep.
Stackhouse and
Yep.
different things like that. So it's paying off. It's just at the same time, like to the people that want to bash stats in our face, like watch that game. quarterbacks are getting the ball out of their hands like well beyond, like well ahead of normal time. Like it's very fast. They're all they're forced to is just like screens and shit like that. Like of course you're not going to get sacks when you're holding the ball for a second, right? That's just my thought.
It's a more complete defense. So last year the defensive line put so much pressure on everyone that the secondary didn't really have to do a whole lot. Well, this year, guess what? We've got the Malachi Starks that's going around. He's a ball hawk. He's picking off balls. I hate that they didn't give him that interception. That I mean, he did drop it. It did hit the ground, but just the fact that he was there. So everybody's involved, which means that you're counting on your secondary, your linebackers, as well as your interior line. And when that's happening, we have a complete defense. Because guess what? Most teams, if their line doesn't get a lot of pressure, then guess what? The back end gets absolutely torched. Well, that's not the case this year. The secondary is playing great. Linebackers are playing great. And, we don't always have to get sacks in order to make great plays.
Now you're 100% right there. Um, and listen, I think as you move forward, right, you've got guys that are going to be in, playing significant playing time, right? You look at, I think moving forward, right, you're going to have, him being a lockdown safety, right? He's going to be the guy, especially with Chris and everybody once they leave next year. We'll obviously get into this more when the time comes, but you look at freshmen getting playing. Listen, people can question Dalen Everett, but Dalen Everett's going to be a name that people really have to pay attention to as well. Then you've got guys like Nyland Green that are patiently waiting their turn. Kamari Lassiter still should be here too next year. We'll see how things play out, obviously. The secondary is fine, right? We had a huge DB haul this past cycle. It's paying off already. Like when you have Malachi Starks doing the things he is as a true freshman, you're setting yourself up for success for the long term. And I think it's going to pay off because if you can come in here as a freshman and ball the fuck out like he's been doing, you have to take that. And as a recruit, you'd love to see that, right? Black Adonis asked, do we know what's the real deal with Arik Gilbert? Does he play more?
I don't. I was thinking the same exact thing as I'm watching the game. And you're seeing Darnell, who's a monster. You're seeing Brock Bowers, but I mean, there hasn't even been any mention. I haven't, as I'm panning the TV for the sidelines, I don't even see him on the sidelines, and so I don't know what's going on because he had such a dominant spring game. He's such a dominant player, so for him not to be a part of it at all, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not really gonna, I guess you could say, speak on it too much because I don't know the situation, right? I feel like, looking at last season, right? If I'm not mistaken, it was personal issues, right? And understanding personal issues, that stuff takes time, right? It definitely does. You look at, like Juan said, the spring game was phenomenal. 2 touchdowns on a few targets that he had. He got 2 touchdowns, so we know he's capable of this stuff, right? But at the same time, like I said, I don't want to speculate anything, but you have to assume that whatever's going on is being handled the right way, and you just wish him the best, whatever's going on, whether it be the personal issues or whether it's something else. For me, you're just ready to see him back whenever he's ready. Don't want to rush him into something. And you don't have to rush him back into something, and that's a luxury that Georgia has. Especially with Todd Hurley building up that tight end room, because you look at Oscar Delp. Even Oscar Delp had a good game Saturday, right? Darnell got some touches. Brock Bowers got some touches. Kind of been a quiet game, obviously through the passing game, right? But when you look at Oscar Delp getting involved, it's it's a rotational thing. So all the guys are playing well, and that's benefiting. And I think that's beneficial for us as we handle right a Rick's situation, whatever it may be. You're not forcing him into something and making him uncomfortable. And I think, as a parent and somebody looking outside of the game of football, there's more. It's more than football. So I think whatever's going on, George is doing the right thing, not rushing him. And
well,
I think if
you're nicer about it, and I guess maybe Georgia's taking a different approach, but I know that when I was at Georgia, and I know Black Adonis will say, well, that was, in the 1930s and 40s. But, when I was there, it was, look, you probably have some mental issues. You probably got some stuff going on, but you need to get your ass on that football field because we need to win games. And we need your production. So, and I get it. You're dealing with 18, 19, year old kids, but at some point in time, unless you're, unless it's deeper than we have any idea, you have to kind of man up and make sure that you do, what you need to do to help out your team. He said 1918.
Yeah, back when Georgia Tech, back when Georgia Tech actually won shit.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That was
So it was back, yeah, back during the war. So we had to finish the game, then we had to go fight. Get our muskets and go out there.
watch out for the trench warfare, right? We talk about
Yeah,
warfare in the we talk about battle
right.
down in the trenches nowadays. It means something different back in 1918, apparently.
Yeah, yeah.
But not, you look at it though, right? Like obviously, just looking at it, right? Georgia's tight end room is helping him take his time, right? And we've seen things like this happen in the past. Now, maybe not, health issue, mental health related or whatever the case may be. But you also look at like, Don Blaylock, right? Don Blaylock went almost 2 years without playing a snap of football, right? Georgia took their time rushing it. There was no rush, right? I think, like I said, looking outside the box, right, from a perspective, right, from a recruit, as a family of a recruit, you have to look at that in a positive way and say you value my son more than the game itself, and I feel like that's the way it should be. But not everybody's like that. Not everybody's like that. Fun fact for the day: there was a Deep South Soldiers rivalry game in 1918. So, listen, Juan, Auburn did play. Listen, we did play them in November, right? Every year. You may have literally ended the war on the 11th and then went to play that Saturday.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. I
could have
remember
happened.
it like it. I remember it like it was yesterday.
Well then, well then. But
Yeah.
no, ultimately though, right? Like, let's just kind of do our wrap up here. Um, you had a great win, 32-point win. People still going to question it, right? National media still going to question it, whatever the case. Let them. Georgia jumps to number one, back to number one after Alabama's sluggish game against A&M. Ohio State at two. Listen, Ohio State is a damn good team, but at the same time, like
I'm
the
not
best is
impressed. I'm
the
not
best
impressed.
is yet to come in regards to Ohio State. Like you look at you look at what they've got on the schedule, right? You look at the back end, right? They played Michigan last week. Um, they got Penn State, things like that. So what Juan is saying is the jury's out still. Um,
Yeah, I mean, after that Notre Dame, they really didn't blow out Notre Dame like they should have. I'm with Jay Jacobs. I do think that Tennessee beats Bama this week. I know we'll have our picks, so I'll get those in. But I do think that's going to kind of change the landscape of that top 25. And I see also, Bama maybe dropping one to Ole Miss as well. So, and depending on how well Bryce, what's Bryce Young's situation, what's going on. I assume that he's going to play this weekend. It's just too big of a game for him not to. So we'll see.
Juan, I want to bring up something. As 62-3 is running a stat check for that game. Keep in mind, if you can see this, guys, there's a dog down there at the bottom, and that symbolizes the last, the last Deep South Soldiers rivalry game we're actually talking about in 1918. This dog was just right after that. Just want to let you know that. So we're having a little bit of a flashback here. Apparently, we've got the KP fan club is back Wednesday. Okay, so
That's what
apparently
I'm
the
talking
Kobe
about. Kobe.
broke my wrist. Kobe. But no, look, I think ultimately, you look at the game, right? It was a dominant win, got back on track, right? Heavy recruiting. All right, listen, I don't know if y'all noticed this. That was a big deal in regards to the recruiting, right? Big. Oh my goodness, Benjamin One Button. Oh Lordy, Lord. There's so much recruiting going on right now. Listen, I'm gonna give a shout out there. Obviously, y'all know I cover Grimsley a lot, but Bryce Davis Friday got his Georgia offer, 2025 class. Got his Georgia offer, and listen, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic for him, right? Obviously, if you don't know, that's a teammate of Jamal Jarrett. Um, Kid's got it, man. If you listen, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go find his midseason highlight tape and turn that shit on. He put Sam Pendleton in the wall. He worked his ass several times. I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Pendleton, but Sam Pendleton is a kid up here in Cartersville, committed to Notre Dame, and got his ass a couple times. It's clean. So his tape's extremely impressive. So go give him a check. Like, listen, if you listening, go follow my man. You'll see it later. You can't miss it. But check out Bryce Davis. Let him know where home is. It's that simple, folks. Okay. Final stat check. In the game in 1918, Juan had 4 receptions for 87 yards and 8 tutties in the Deep South Social Rivalry game in 1918. Damn, they were throwing bombs, Juan.
It was a big day. It was a big day.
Now, question: were passes thrown like this, or how were they thrown back then?
They were kind of bold. Like they just like underhand softball pitch, just like
Oh,
that. And then also after that, then I went and fought in the war. And so
ooh.
it was amazing times.
Apparently, this was also back before the forward pass was legal, so it must have.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
it was
crazy
a
to
good
think that.
day. It was a good day.
I mean, apparently so. You win a game. I don't. We'll have to go back and do the stat check for the game, but I mean, 4 receptions for 87 yards, 8 tutties. That tells you did a lot of running too. So
Lot of running. It was a good day.
we got the Santa pitch. We called it the Santa Claus. Okay. So Juan's nickname was Santa Paws back in the day with them hands.
Santa pitch.
Uh, anyway, I think we're gonna wrap this thing up. Obviously, as you all know, fuck Auburn, so we're putting that to bed for the season. Um, Triple option running Santa Claus. Okay, okay, Kobe. He's on his back too. He's in his back today. I'm just saying. But nonetheless, Georgia takes care of business. Come back Wednesday for the picks. Got some good ones for you. I know y'all saw them. We've talked about this. Got a lot of good games coming up. Um, let's go check it out. Obviously, follow us, on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Wherever you listen to a podcast, give us a follow. If you like what you hear, maybe you like Juan's laugh, right? Leave a review. Let us know you like his laugh. Maybe we'll get you to do more of it, Juan. That's on the brigade to make you laugh, though. So, if you're listening to this and you like it, you got to come into the brigade and make it be known. Listen, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, whatever, like, follow, subscribe. Hey, click the like button. It's free, and it helps the show out a ton. Other than that, though, Juan, any final words before we wrap this stuff up, man?
Man, I'm ready for us just to continue trucking down this road. We got a national championship in sight, so let's go get it.
There's no snow on the road, so you can't run over anybody. So we're good to
That's
go.
true. But
Good to go.
I'm running over all grandmothers, so get
But
out of the way.
well, hold on though. Listen, Auburn was all white. Maybe that's what ran them over.
That's true. That's
Oh,
true.
so Auburn got ran over by Juan Daniels, folks.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
That was their fault for wearing all white. That's their fault. You
Yes, they did.
got to miss confused for snow, and it's a wrap. The rest is history. Anyways, all right, guys, we're gonna wrap this thing up. Make sure you come back Wednesday for the show. Obviously, whenever you get your podcast, stay tuned for that. Go Dogs, as always. Catch you on the next time.
Go Dogs.